Hello guys. Jaylen Milroe expected to replace $150 million QB in NFL? No one expected this at all? Let's get to the news, but first subscribe to the channel for more Bama news. Jaylen Milroe's situation in the race for the 2025 NFL Draft is a perfect reflection of what Alabama represents in the college football scene: raw talent, undeniable potential, and the ability to defy any narrative. Few quarterbacks have had as much of a scrutinized season as Milroe in 2024, and now, with his name circulating in mock drafts, the possibility of seeing him with the Saints adds even more anticipation to his future. It's funny how college football and the NFL can have such different evaluations of a player. For Alabama fans, Milroe was much more than just a number. Yes, he finished the season with 2,844 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, as well as an impressive 726-yard, 20 TD rushing game. But those are just stats. What really stood out was his resilience, his leadership on the field, and his ability to turn games around when things looked tough. It was that mindset that helped Alabama compete at a high level in a challenging season. Now, with the draft approaching, the predictions are starting to heat up. Pro Football Focus ranks him as the number 4 quarterback available and the number 100 player overall. Joe Delone of Pro Football and Sports Network's projection of Milroe going to the New Orleans Saints with the number 71 pick is an idea that, on its face, makes perfect sense. The Saints have Derek Carr under contract through 2026, but we know how the NFL works. Teams are always looking to the future, and finding a dynamic quarterback like Milroe at a relatively low pick could be a smart strategic move. Delone's comparison to Jalen Hurts isn't far-fetched. Both came from Alabama, both faced questions about their passing ability, and both have game-changing athleticism. Hurts has had time to develop in the NFL and has become one of the league's most dangerous quarterbacks. Milroe, if given the right development environment, could follow a similar path. What would the Saints gain from Milroe? A quarterback who can create plays even when everything else is going wrong. His running game is already a weapon that worries any defense, and if he continues to improve his reading of the game and his passing accuracy, he could become a nightmare for opponents. The system of Kellen Moore, the Saints' new offensive coordinator, could be an interesting fit for his skill set, as it favors mobile and creative quarterbacks. Of course, there are still many uncertainties. The draft is unpredictable, and other teams could be interested in Milroe before the Saints have a chance to draft him. Plus, the transition to the NFL is never easy. But if there's one thing Alabama teaches its players, it's how to compete at the highest level, and Milroe has already shown that he's not afraid to take on a challenge. If that prediction comes true, Alabama fans will have one more reason to tune into the upcoming NFL season. Milroe may not have been the favorite at the start of last season, but he's proven that he has the talent to surprise. Now, it's up to him to take the next step and show that he can be the next big success story to come out of Tuscaloosa. What do you think? The Alabama Crimson Tide are in a prime position to secure a commitment from one of the top defensive talents in the 2026 class, 5-star cornerback Albert Hill. Despite stiff competition from programs like Oregon, Ohio State and USC, the Tide appear to have the upper hand in this recruiting campaign, and Kalen DeBoer and his staff are playing their cards right to emerge victorious in this battle. Hill, a native of Akron, Ohio, is one of the most sought-after prospects in the country. He is considered the top cornerback in the 2026 class by 247 Sports composite rankings. His speed, game reading and one-on-one aggressiveness make him a player who can impact any defense in his first year of college football. That's why elite programs like Alabama, Ohio State and Oregon are pushing hard to convince him to wear their colors. But by all accounts, Alabama is in control of this race. According to On3's Chad Simmons, the Crimson Tide took a big step forward in Hill's recruitment after the player visited Tuscaloosa during the Georgia game. In addition, he met with Kalen DeBoer and other Tide coaches again in January, further cementing the relationship between the two parties. As a result, Hill is already scheduled to return to Alabama on March 3, a clear indication that the program is in a very good position. While the Oregon Ducks have demonstrated their strength in the national recruiting scene by landing safety Trey McNutt, also from Ohio, in the 2025 class, the competition for Hill appears to be a bigger challenge. Alabama's tradition of developing defensive backs for the NFL, combined with the structure of Tuscaloosa and the work of the new coaching staff, puts the Tide in a strong position. Ohio State, on the other hand, is a name that cannot be ignored. The program has hosted Hill more than 10 times and, for a long time, was considered the heavy favorite to land him. However, Alabama's surge in the draft and the way DeBoer has handled this recruiting campaign have changed the landscape. What once seemed like a surefire win for the Buckeyes is now a much more even battle, and at this point, the tide appears to be turning in the Crimson Tide's favor. With Hill set to visit Tuscaloosa in March, Alabama has a chance to further solidify its position and potentially make that commitment happen. If there's one thing the Tide do well, it's finishing key recruits with surgical precision. The race isn't over yet, but at this point, it looks like Alabama is in the driver's seat and ready to land another elite talent for its secondary. The Alabama Crimson Tide may have been a bit late in the race for four-star wide receiver Samurian Wingo, but that doesn't mean they're behind. On the contrary, the talented Florida receiver's interest in the Tide's offer shows that Kalen DeBoer and his staff know exactly how to attract top talent even when they come in late from other programs. Wingo, a top prospect from St. Augustine High School, has already established himself as one of the top wide receivers in the class. Rated a four-star recruit by most recruiting services, he combines athleticism, quickness, and separation ability that makes him a valuable asset to any elite offense. And now, with an offer from Alabama on the table, his recruitment has taken a new chapter. Wingo himself admitted that interest in the Tide has increased significantly since receiving the offer. In an interview with Touchdown Alabama, he got straight to the point, "I'm very interested. I'm working on setting up an official visit with Coach Jamarcus Shepard." This detail is important because Shepard, Alabama's wide receivers coach, has a strong track record of developing talent at the position, which could be a deciding factor for Wingo. Alabama knows it's been a bit late to the game than other teams, but it's moving quickly to build a solid relationship. And if there's one thing the program has in spades, it's a history of developing wide receivers for the NFL. From recent names like Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle and Jameson Williams to the Tide's current crop of talent, the program's track record speaks for itself. Wingo acknowledges this: it's Alabama. It's a great program. Everything is great. They produce good players across the board. It's just a great team. With an official visit to Alabama already in the works, the Tide has a prime opportunity to further cement its case. Wingo wants to make his final decision after he's completed all of his official visits, which means Alabama will have time to position itself as the best fit for his development. What do you think? Will he come? What will the QB battle be like at Bama? After Jaylen Milroe left for the 2025 NFL Draft, the competition for the QB1 position in Tuscaloosa is wide open, and Coach Kalen DeBoer has an important decision to make. While many expected Ty Simpson to naturally take over the role, the reality within the program is much more competitive, and Keelan Russell, the young talent recruited by DeBoer, is positioning himself as a strong candidate. Russell, a former five-star recruit, has barely arrived in Tuscaloosa and is already making his mark. According to a report from On3, he is competing intensely, and no one on the Alabama staff sees a clear starter at the moment. This means that, even with his experience in the system, Simpson still has to prove that he deserves the job. His status as the most experienced quarterback on the roster is no guarantee of anything, especially since he was not recruited by DeBoer. And that is a crucial question. Since taking over, DeBoer has shaped the roster to fit his vision. The departure of quarterbacks like Eli Hallstein, Pitt, Julian Sayin, Ohio State, and Dylan Lonergan, Boston College, shows that the transition to a new regime has not been smooth sailing for everyone. However, the fact that DeBoer personally recruited Russell indicates that he sees special potential in the young quarterback. That, coupled with Russell's early performance in practice, suggests that the race is far from over. ESPN recently projected Simpson as the presumptive starter, noting that he should have an opportunity to claim the position in the fall unless Alabama pursues a new option in the transfer portal. That detail cannot be ignored. If DeBoer isn't convinced that he has a true QB1 on the roster, it wouldn't be surprising to see the Crimson Tide scouring the market for an impactful name. But what's really impressive about this early season for Alabama isn't just the quarterback battle, but the immediate impact of the 2025 recruiting class. The Crimson Tide finished with the third-best class in the country and brought in some serious talent, including 3 5-star recruits in Russell, Michael Carroll, OL, and Dijon Lee, CB. The impact of these freshmen is already being felt, with inside sources highlighting names like Ivan Taylor, S., Derek Meadows, WR, and Jackson Lloyd, OT, as players who are positively surprising. Internal feedback on the 2025 class couldn't be more positive. One staff member described the new recruits as professionals in the way they train, take care of themselves physically, and adapt to the Alabama environment. It's a great indication that DeBoer has managed to assemble a group that not only has the talent, but also the mentality needed to compete at the highest level of college football. The next few months will be crucial in determining who will lead Alabama's offense in 2025. While Simpson has the advantage of experience, Russell has already proven that he's not willing to wait for his moment without a fight. And with a talented group of freshmen already impressing in the early days, the Crimson Tide appear to be on a great path to continuing their tradition of college football excellence. The battle for the QB1 spot is just beginning, but one thing is for sure, whoever emerges will have to earn every snap. Let me know what you think in the comments.